You should cut off friends who aren't growing.
Whew.
Want to say it again there?
You should cut off friends that aren't growing. I think you should see them less. I don't think you should cut them off.
Is that your point?
That's my point.
Okay. So, cut off friends that aren't growing. Yes. See them less. Same thing. Just limit the interaction you have with them, because, like I said earlier, with friends who limit your immersion to success, they're out there. There's a lot of them, especially, like I said again, how we come out from high school. A person like me who graduated like 2 years ago. Person like me who graduated. Thank you. Like 2 years ago, I had a lot of friends, but then I didn't have a specific friend group, because what I was looking for in a friend is someone who shares the same interests as me. I right now have a very strong hustler's mentality, right? I've gone for I've loved to try out different businesses. I've gone for like e-com, like it didn't work, but I still tried out different things, reselling. Some of them might have worked, but the people you tend to do this with, or the people you tend to do this without, some of them don't actually support you. Like they won't necessarily support you as like.
So do you cut them off?
You don't cut them off, actually.
Oh, so we agree then. You just keep distance.
Yeah, you keep distance.
Perfect.
But again, right? I am a kind of person who likes making impact in, like, say, someone like my friend's life. So if I'm doing something that I find success in, right, I wouldn't cut my friends off. I would actually not even limit them. I mean, like, there's no in between. You either cut them off or limit, right? So kind of like limit, but like tend to like drag them towards what you do and see if it works for them, right?
Absolutely.
So the more you share, the more growth you have.
I've got friends that are in the grave that I started marketing agencies with. And I'm not saying that to be grim. I've processed these emotions. But I actually agree with you. Like, you should actually bring up people. But as 50 Cent said, or one of the people said in one of Robert Greene's books, like, you got to be careful. Again, humans, it all goes back to mimetic behavior, right? So we copy behaviors that we deem of higher status. So for example, the reason why girls tend to be attracted to celebrities is not because Gunna's hot. It's because Gunna is like Gunna. He's famous. He's screened by these thousands of other women. Now let's flip it to the male side. The reason why we're like, oh, this guy, you know, he's like strong, is because we want to, he's an emblem of what we can copy, right? So when it comes to, you know, friends and dragging them up, you should drag them up. But if they're not willing to copy the emblem or the precedent that you've set,
then you cut them down.
You need to create distance. And that's where I think we agree.
Yeah.
Great.
Then I would say we cut them down.
I love it.
Basically, going back to what you mentioned, you said somebody making below 80K is unattractive to the average
No, I
woman.
said that I think if you're under 35, you should focus on not dating until you're making at least 80 grand a year.
Of course. Now, let's look
I
at
would
it from
prefer
the
more,
other
but
point
yeah.
of view. I think where we cut off was that would you ever date somebody who is making under 30K as a woman?
Would you date someone that's making less than you right now?
Yes, I have.
Why'd you hesitate?
No, I have.
Right now, though. Not in the past. Right now.
I have done that.
No, right now, would you? No, I have.
So, yeah, but when I was making, let's say, 80 grand and he was making 60 grand, I did that.
No,
and I
you
would
said,
do
you're
that
saying
today.
past tense.
Okay.
So today, would you do
Today,
that?
yes, I would.
With conviction.
With conviction,
Okay, great.
yes.
That's good. You're an outlier, statistically.
Am I an outlier though?
Yeah.
I know so many women that would do this thing.
They
because as too controversially, it's a little bit controversial, but we don't only look at the dollar signs in someone's bank account.
Agreed.
There's so many other things that go into choosing whether or not I want to.
Do you know the
spend
biggest reason for
some time.
divorce is? Money.
That's because that shows income. That shows that someone does
Financial
not have the
incapability.
ability. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Not incapability, just because you don't have the ability. As a woman in my 20s, I invest my time in someone that I believe will be able to make it.
Will be able to make. How do you define making it?
It's the effort. It's the principles.
No. As in, what's the result of making it?
As far as being able to be stable, be able to create a home, be
Is
able
stable
to,
not 30K a year?
Sorry.
Is stable 30K a year?
No, it's not.
What's-
but if
what's
you see the
stable?
potential
What's stable though?
in this day and age, probably 100, 120K per year.
You're meaner than me. I'm saying 80K at least.
That doesn't mean I see ability. You look at numbers, and that's the difference in perspective. I'm representing a woman, you're representing a man. And I think this is the problem.
I agree. Women see ability. But what I'm saying is by 45,
The-
for
the
example,
problem
if he's
is-
still at 30K and you're like, he's hustling though.
Of course, and what's the problem with that?
Are you
I feel
happy
like
to stay there?
yes.
Okay, that's good. You're a better
So-
person than most.
Okay.
Because according to stats, a lot of women, especially after a certain age, even if they love the person, there's a saying, love isn't enough.
Of course. I just don't like this perception that male or men put on females that, hey, they are just going to look at our money and our income and our abilities.
I agree with you. No,
Yeah,
no.
but I feel like what you were advocating
Resources,
for before.
status, money, and power. And what I'm saying is for most women in their 30s, if they were to organize that on a chart, a 6'8", super attractive.
That's
ripped
because that
person.
shows survivance. If lights go out, gas go out, electricity
Same
go
with
out,
money,
he
'cause
can
it's
keep me
resources.
alive.
It's resources.
The fact that you're only using that as the only measurement.
I said various
think.
ones. I'm saying in order at 30 plus years old for most women,
Mhm.
if he can financially provide, usually that's higher up in terms of priority.
I disagree with that.
I mean, you'd prioritize someone that's super ripped that's making 20K a year compared to someone that's making 2M and they're 5'9".
I'm not gonna say my personal take on that, but I know so many people that do that and have done that. Look at
Do you
Britney
think that's the
Spears. Look at the
Britney
boy
Spears?
toy that he chose.
Britney Spears?
Yes.
The boy toy.
Yes.
Okay, so
he
does she
was
wanna
only good looking, and that was all that he
Is he
had to
rich?
offer. Not back then he wasn't. He became rich because he was Britney Spears' boyfriend.
Absolutely. But again, that's a great outlier and that's a great example. Even Alex and Layla Hormozi, they're outliers. I'm looking at if the average marriage is breaking apart, and by the way, if the woman is college educated, I think it goes up to 70 or 80% of women will initiate the divorce, by the way. And by the way, there's different stats. There's a lot of stats that where, and we can talk about the men's side, by the way. Men mess up a lot, but oftentimes breakdowns comes because of financial incompetence. And a lot of men, I agree, are financially incompetent. You guys are crushing it, by the way, in the workforce.
70%
of my staff are women.
Of course.
My operations
I've
manager
dealt
is a
with
woman.
them. They're amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Of
they're
course.
superstars.
Especially Tracy.
Shout out to Tracy watching. She'll probably watch this.
Yes.
So I actually agree with you that it's not the be all end all for most women, but in terms of what they're looking at a survival level, if the lights go out today or if
Yes.
something happens,
Yes.
if you have a guy that, for example, can get you out of the state on a private jet, you're going to be more inclined from a survival perspective to if everything's getting bought, what are you going to do?
But going back to the age range that we were talking about between the 20s and the 30s,
Yeah.
whether or not
20 to
it's-
30 is usually status, but sorry to interrupt. Just
No,
to be
of
clear,
course.
20 to 30 is usually status.
To
and
be
then 30
honest,
to 40
though, you would
tends to be
find that
finances.
more women in their 20s to 30s dating, aka like a loser, what society would call a loser, than somebody in their 30s and their 40s.
I agree with you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Then if we are going back to the original statement that you made, that a man making under $80,000 a year,
I said a man
would-
should focus instead
course.
of dating, focusing on dating.
I would argue that that man in their 30s would have more option if they're not making as much money than, let's say, a very successful man in their 40s making a lot of money.
So you're saying he would have more options?
More options.
Why?
Because the age range, the dating pool for a man that's 25 is millions of women.
Misconception. That's a misconception. So
Why
the
would you say
dating
that?
pool, the dating pool is open. But for example, have you heard of I forgot the term, the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
So for
Yeah,
example, and these are just stats, evolution about psychology, Dr. David Buss,
Mm-hmm.
80% of men are actually invisible to most women. So for example, you know how a lot of women in their 20s will pick a guy that cheats a lot, or is like a bit of a
Yes.
criminal or a bit
Yes.
dangerous, or like very tall and he's got tats. That's because a lot of women are actually making the world
Natural selection. Yeah.
non-monogamous, right? So it's actually a selection thing. That's why I'm saying social media is exaggerating these
Of
things.
course.
But the reason for that is not because these guys are super, it's because they're showing extreme traits. Women tend to like dark triad traits more when they're in
And
their
that
20s.
doesn't only have to be resources. Do we agree? Do you agree on that? Those
So
extreme
what
traits.
I'm saying is those
doesn't-
extreme traits are correlative with resource acquisitions. Power, for example, most politicians are
Yes.
extremely high on dark triad traits. Easy done. Most entrepreneurs are usually much higher on dark triad traits as well: Machiavellianism, sociopathy, and psychopathy.
Yes.
And narcissism. There's a four, but narcissism is kind of like an overhyped one that people talk about on TikTok. So because of those traits, when girls see that in their 20s, when they're the most fertile, it's kind of like a natural selection match. It's like this guy is showing like the extreme of these bad traits that are really correlated with survival if there was no electricity.
Would you
and those
agree if
javelins.
that
But
has
also the
nothing to
women
do
are
with
the most
resources? And it goes
traditionally
back
attractive.
to the statement that you made, making under $80,000.
I
You
said you
can be a
should focus.
brokey and show so many other aspects.
Yeah.
You can show strength. You can work on yourself.
During your 20s though, but life
Like, you
is
can be
80 years old.
well-spoken
You're
like
going to be 80 years
yourself.
old at least. So what I'm saying is if the guy has mating success in his 20s, by the time he's in his 30s, that woman that might have loved maybe like the sex or like the intimacy or the highs and lows, once she's like, I want kids with a safer bet.
And
that's
safer
when
doesn't always mean resources. Would you agree with
well,
me?
resources, like I said, they're not just money. It's also money, power, and status. But in the 30s, women tend to focus less on status and more on money and power.
I don't agree with that.
Well, it was great to disagree with you.
Thank you.
If you aren't working over 40 hours a week, you don't deserve success.
Ooh. If you aren't working over 40 hours a week, you don't deserve success.
Everyone thinks they need to work hard. Otherwise, they don't deserve it.
At the start, I completely agree. Welcome back.
Thank you. So I guess there's kind of like a common theme that's been running in our conversations, which is the notion of the factors that are responsible for your financial situation. So when we say things like people don't deserve to be successful unless they do X, Y, and Z, perhaps we could specify that to specific situations. But I think what we really need to consider are all of these factors that people don't have control over. And if there are factors that you don't have control over that render you incapable of being able to work as efficiently as other people in similar situations, then it wouldn't make sense to say that these people don't deserve to be successful. You may say that they need extra help. We should try to prioritize them more in terms of maybe social programs or whatever it may be. And just to clarify, I'm not just talking about like biological hereditary factors that are passed down from families. One of the things that's passed down from families is wealth. That's obviously not something which is biological, but it's passed down intergenerationally.
Passed down, by the way.
That can be a part of it too. But if you have all the traits that would render somebody wealthy, you're still going to be behind somebody who has those traits and was already born into a situation where they actually do have the wealth.
Absolutely. So a couple great points that you made, and I love that you focus always on, like, you're really good at the Robin Hood effect. You're using the focusing on the people that are starting at a disadvantage, and I get that, but I think not everyone that's watching this, I'm looking at the average person. So if the normal person in Australia is 5'9", let's talk about, I'm a man, so I'll talk about men, 5'9" and they're making, because it says the median income in Australia is 100 grand. It's actually not true. That's the median. Then there's the mean. So the average income in Australia, let's say, is about 65 grand. It's probably going to get less because of interest rates, etc. If the average man's 5'9", 65k a year, living in Australia, okay, and the average person has slept with 7 people, and I'll get to my point, in their entire life, that's the average, by the way, right? I'm saying that you need to work your ass off if you're average. Work your ass off. I think that is the safest risk-adjusted bet, because when you work hard, you get feedback loops. And when you get feedback loops, you get patterns. And when you get patterns, that's how you can find out how to escape the matrix or escape whatever environment that you're in.
Right.
But for most people that didn't have a significant financial advantage from their family, or don't have a disability of some sorts, whether it's social disability or physical disability or abnormality, I think working hard will yield you faster patterns. But it is working hard on the right thing. And I think that also comes from testing. I've sold nearly 30 different things, from tech sales to marketing services to cleaning services. I've cleaning companies, I've had nightclubs. I've done 30 different sales activities. I figured out which one worked for me. I tested.
Sure. So, I mean, I would definitely agree that, it seems to be uncontroversial to say that if somebody has a good work ethic, then all else remaining equal, they're going to be more likely to succeed compared to somebody that doesn't. But I would say that, that's going to be a factual analysis about what renders somebody more likely to be able to be financially successful.
So we agree that is more likely.
No, but when we use terms like deserve, we're now employing moral language about the types of things that people are entitled to, what they should be blamed for, what they should be praised for, and precisely because all these factors, which you can't see just by looking at somebody, you can't see their psychological dispositions, what type of mental illness they may have,
but are we
what
talking
type
about
of circumstance they were born into. Even for the average person, just by looking at them, you wouldn't be able to pick up on these types of factors.
Absolutely.
That would actually render them less capable of being able to dedicate their time and effort into something where another person could. Even if these two people look the same from the outside, they're raised in a similar area, they have the same physical characteristics. There are so many underlying factors. It's going to be relating to the financial situation that they're born in, psychological factors, biological predispositions.
So you don't think people should work up?
No. So it's not about should or shouldn't. Obviously, if you do work hard, then you're going to be more likely to be successful, all else being equal. But if you're working hard because you were born in a position that facilitated that in a way that other people weren't able to have that for them because they weren't in that position, I don't think we should be using words like deserves or they should be praised for it, they should be blamed for it.
I hear you. So your discrepancies with the word deserved.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yeah.
And that's fair. But let me say something. When it comes to the word deserved, is that the camera? Or are we all good? Oh, okay, easy. When it comes to the word deserved, you also, the way in which you make your decisions is based on the way you perceive your own values, right? So for example, some people here are religious, some people aren't, right? So for example, even good and evil is a massive blurred area. So in my value system, especially if it's a biblical perspective, God talks, especially in the Old Testament, about you got to reap what you sow, right? So I think that when a man or a woman works really, really hard, they even feel like they deserve to sleep better. And when I say deserve, it's not in the literal sense of they should not sleep because they didn't work hard, but I feel like you rest better when you've worked out really well after the gym. So when it comes to the people that put in 40 hours or even 100 hours a week compared to those that, for example, do 5 hours a week, I think that usually patterns are that those that do more hours will usually end up getting that result. And because it's a usual thing, I think that it also will be a deserving thing. What's your value system?
So, I mean, it really, I think that's a very broad question. So we'd have to,
Are you
narrow in
religious?
on certain things. Yeah, I'm a religious person.
What religion do you believe?
Christianity.
Okay. So do you think Jesus would want you to work hard or to not work hard?
Of course, work hard. But I don't think the biblical message is to become as financially prosperous as possible, especially at the expense of others. I agree.
But we're talking about the word deserve. We're not talking about the expense of others. We're talking about deserve.
But that's how a lot of wealth ends up being accumulated.
Well, that's not the topic though. The topic is about your issue with the word deserve, and we just established that you're Christian. So you also agree that Jesus would prefer that you work hard than didn't, correct?
Yeah, but it's definitely interrelated to the actual.
But we're talking about the individual that should be working many hours. It's people. Yeah.
Okay, so take something like that. Do you think then that Jesus would say, if you don't work at least 40 hours a week, you shouldn't deserve to have all the to be able to engage in all the liberties that being financially successful would allow you? Especially once we already agree upon the established facts, there are so many factors outside of one's control that they can't be held morally responsible for, because you can only be held morally responsible for something that's within your control. And because all these factors play these roles, even if it's the case that trying to eliminate these as best as possible will render somebody to be more likely. Once again, if you admitted that there can be a distinction between what people deserve and what would make would make them more likely, but I'm struggling to see the relevant distinction there, because it's either going to be the case that we shouldn't be using this type of language about blaming people or praising them for doing things that are facilitated by conditions out of their control.
Gotcha. Good arguments. Welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, so I actually agree with what you say. I do believe that you have to work hard to receive success, because it's this internal feeling that makes you feel fulfilled when you are tired from work, rather than, getting money quick and easy, and then you actually spend it just as quick as well.
I agree.
So to retain success as well, I believe working hard is good. So yeah.
We're on the same page.
Good job.
Likewise.
Yo. Okay. So based on this topic, right? On the comment of whether you deserve success based on hard work, that actually varies as well. Because I'm the kind of person who, if I
hard work is relative.
Yeah. If I want to try something, right, I'll say there's someone who wants to try something, right, but you try as much as you can. You say you give it 40 hours in a week, right, but you don't seem to understand or get what you're doing. As to a different person with a different mindset, he can work 20, 30 hours, but there's just something about the mentality of people, right? Because people think different, right? The way I'm gonna do something, say if we do two things, right? If we both did e-commerce, right, and we have no experience, right, the way you understand things quicker, right, your ability to understand things quicker and actually develop and actually get used to it, and just resonate with what you're doing is very different from how the other person might actually will think. It's like saying, kind of like Kobe's mentality, the mama's mentality, right? The mama's mentality is typically just handed around, especially in this generation, it's just thrown around you gotta work like this. Do you know how much Kobe actually worked? You know how much effort
more than 40 hours
put in?
Way more than 40 hours.
Yeah. And people of nowadays, right, especially upcoming young athletes, right, talking about take this, do this like Kobe, do this looking up to your role model isn't bad, but your ability to put in the amount of work you put in at the same even if you put in the same effort as you put in the other person puts in, right, your outcome will still be completely different, might still be completely different to what another person's outcome will be, right?
I agree.
So it's not just about working. Now you can work very hard, like we can both work hard, but
I
one
agree.
of us might come out like.
That's why I said though at the start.
successful.
If you at the start of the question, I said at the start, yes, 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
But at one point, it becomes diminishing returns. At
Yeah.
one point, you actually need to become a manager of people. One of the traps that kept me at under $1 million a year for a long time, literally until last year, or up till last year rather, was I was always still thinking I can just out hustle this problem, and that was a trauma response. I'm scared, work harder. I'm scared, do 14 hours a day. I'm scared, like, don't listen to music until like you've reached X goal.
Yeah.
I'm scared, don't go out to the club for 3 months. Don't see your close friends for 2 months. So that's a trauma response. But what happens is once you get enough patterns from working really hard, you can start to figure out which patterns were successful, which ones were not successful. And then you now become a manager of patterns, a manager of people, right?
Mhm.
That's why I'm actually agreeing with you, and I think you're agreeing with me, that the goal is not to work hard forever because it yields different outcomes to different people, especially when you
Yeah.
repeat the same thing. But you should work hard enough to where you can see a trend. And once you see the trends, you're winning.
That's when you also. I feel like that's when you also implement the kind of like say work smart, not hard, because a lot of people tend to say, oh, it's 2026, it's time to work smarter.
You got to
it's time
do both in
this-
2026.
Yeah, you got to do both. You got to do both.
Imagine
Like,
working 5 hours a week with AI when you could work 100 hours a week plus have all these other advantages. Like, there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
But our generation is the most lazy. Gen
Yeah.
Z is by far. I struggle to hire Gen Z, and I'm a Gen Z. It's actually quite weird. And the thing is, it's because we can blame COVID. There are real things that have affected us sociologically. I agree, but we also have the most opportunity. We're a very smart generation, but our literacy level is shit. Gen Alpha is even way worse,
Creativity
right? They can
gone
say 6, 7 better than Alphabet, right? It's bad, right? So I think we agree though that you don't have to work hard forever because there's different results that come from it, but I think you do have to work hard
Yeah.
for a season. And I think you're in
100%.
that season, much like myself. So
No
congrats, well done.
Thank you.
It's okay to lie in an interview, or it's okay to lie to get a job or a client.
So the question was, is it okay to lie to get a job or a client? Short answer is no, but I talked about this on an Instagram live recently. Everyone's description of good and bad is really, really individual. The reason why I say that's because, for example, and I use this example, say I own a roofing company. And I go on ChatGPT, I say damisroofing.co, I get the PTY LTD. I could technically cold call a venue and be like, hey, I actually own a roofing company, Damis Roofing Co., PTY LTD. Can I come and do a diagnostic? I come there, I send screenshots of the different leaks in their roof to ChatGPT. I say, hey, listen, these are the issues. If you're okay with it, I can get one of our guys to come out there and fix it. It'll be 10 grand. I pay the guy $1,000 and I charge 10 grand. Did I lie? I owned the name of the business. If he asked me now a question about, have you done this before? I'll be like, look, this is my first time, but because it's my first time, I'm going to give you a discount. I'm happy to say that. But is it a lie because I created a company that's now registered in PTY LTD? That's not a lie, but it depends on the person that you ask. Now, to lie to get a client, I don't think that's a good idea, because what will happen is I've done it. Okay, I'm happy to admit that I did that when I was 19. By the time I got my 4th client, because I had not mastered that certain niche yet, and very quickly they realized I was incompetent. They felt bad for me. They referred me to someone else. That ended up being another client, right? So some people are going to take pity on me, and some people are going to take pity on you, but not always. And I've also had times that I've been exposed. So you're better off not lying, but you can definitely be creative. And most entrepreneurs are very creative. And creative doesn't mean lying, but it means you have to be able to think. Well, optimistic is another word. You disagree with that, apparently.
I mean, say like.
So you think you should lie?
Wait. I didn't say. Hey, chill, calm down. Okay, so like with me, right? The thing about my kind of like I would say like a lot of 19, 18, or 17-year-olds that's trying to get a job, right? A lot of them actually lie on their resumes, actually, because like
100%.
with now the industries around, say like even simple shops like Kohl's, Kmart, all this and that, a lot of them require experience, right? Warehouses specifically, they require like 3-4 years of experience. If you actually go down to the warehouse industry, you most of the time you see a lot of like
cap.
Yeah.
No, I've lied on a resume before. I'm far from perfect. Yeah.
But then the only reason they do that is because they're either desperate for a job, the money, or like it's some sort of drive. They need something from that, right?
Okay.
Why would you lie if you don't need? They want it's either you need or you want something, right?
So you're saying that there's a it's okay with certain reasons for people to lie. Is that what you're saying?
Sort of. See,
Sort
my
of.
version, right?
You guys agree with that? Okay, go.
My version
No flags,
is kind of like
interesting.
I wouldn't say me.
A lot of unethical people in the building,
I
apparently.
wouldn't lie and go apply for go apply for a job where it's like, oh, you need a what's it called, university degree or certificate to like actually get in, because we actually know you need to be qualified for that job. You need to have the information you need to retain and actually like know. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to have an idea of what to do. Like you need to have in-depth ideas. But for simple jobs like simple job like being a warehouse worker or like those kind of jobs is like it's very accessible, because I know like doing those sort of like activities, right, is fairly easy. So I feel like if I lie on a resume, but I know I have far much more beyond like capabilities on what is needed for that job, and I'm actually gonna work there and actually work that to my best ability and be efficient and actually be a good employee,
then it's okay to lie.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we disagree.
Flags there. Let's do that. That's good. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello. So, I believe it's not okay to lie, especially because you're just going to put yourself in a trap
We agree.
where essentially you don't have the skills for this job. And if you can't back yourself up, you will end up miserable in that job, in that situation, because you're unable to prove that you've had that skill.
Yeah.
So I would suggest go learn that skill, prove that you can be good, and then move forward.
I agree. I love it.
Being a minority makes it difficult to grow a business.
Being a minority makes it difficult to grow a business. It makes it harder, but I don't think that should be the excuse. Like, if it's hard, just get better.
3, 2, 1. Yeah. When you're back ready.
Do you want to go on this?
Welcome back. Good to see you.
You too. I disagree with what you just mentioned, because in my ideation and my belief, you create your own reality, and if you believe it makes it harder if you're Asian, black, white, or Persian.
We actually agree. No, I said
Do we?
it's harder, but who cares? Just work harder.
Of course, but why is it even harder?
Oh, just statistics.
I don't.
By the way, I
Again,
don't.
as an entrepreneur, because you have to do so many things that don't align with the statistic. Why would you even let this into your consciousness?
Oh, so absolute great point. So first of all, I don't use race as my yardstick for difficulty. Like, oh my gosh, like
I'm black card.
yeah, I'm black. Like, please, like, help me, or no, I've never been that guy ever. I remember people didn't shake my hand when I'd pitched them in Turek when I was 18, 19 years old.
That's horrible, by the way.
They look at my hand, look at me, realize I'm wearing my dad's shirt. They see a little black guy with dreads, and they just walk off. That happened many times in Turek and Brighton, and I've got hella clients there. So like, it's not, and I don't feel any resentment to it. It's just human nature. Humans are mimetic. So for example, let's go to different countries. You go to South Africa,
Yes.
for example. There's apartheid that happened many, many years ago. Rest in peace to all involved in apartheid. Apartheid was anyway. There's parts of South Africa where if you're white, it's advantageous, and there's parts of South Africa where you're black, it's disadvantageous, and vice versa, right? So humans are always tribal. We evolved in groups of 300. If you saw 100 people that looked like yourself, you're going to unconsciously feel a bit safer.
Of course.
Right? It's human nature. So for me to be like, oh, white people should feel bad for being racist, I'm not saying that either. But I understand that if I'm in Wyndham Vale at 12:03 a.m. at night, coming from McDonald's, if you see a Sudanese person or a Nigerian person that's over 6'5" versus a white boy that's an Eshe, you're probably going to be scared of both, but probably less scared of the Eshe. And I think that's human nature. But that's not an excuse for success. I just made more cold calls. I just dialed more calls. I just knocked more doors. I just got more clients instead.
As someone who worked in sales for the past 6 years, the entirety of their career, I completely disagree with that, because the second you let that into your consciousness, you're going to attract more of it. The second I think, I have a Persian accent, people are not going to want to list their house with me, I'm going to come across more people, because we create our own reality.
I agree with
As someone who's talking about this publicly on social media, this is going to be advertised.
Absolutely.
I don't think you should even say that as a statement.
Okay, but I think, and I appreciate the honesty there. I agree that we create our own reality. I agree with you there. Where I disagree is not looking at stats. Like, for example, I know that there is X amount of people.
If I was to look at stats, I would have never even made it to Australia. I would not be able to. If I was to.
But you can look at stats and go against the stats. The
I don't
likelihood of
agree.
being a business
That's going to
owner.
make it harder for you. Why would you do that to yourself?
The likelihood
I
of
can
me
shoot
starting a
myself in the
business.
foot and then go run a marathon. Why would I do that?
Well, that wouldn't be very wise if you shot yourself in the foot and ran a marathon.
Exactly.
But you
if
could also
you
make the
let
same
yourself
excuse.
believe that if I'm ethnic, if I'm black, it's going to be harder, why would you even think about that? Why would you even look at the stats?
Well, I
You can
just think
run.
the average entrepreneur is usually in their late 40s
The average
and
entrepreneur
50s.
is not a very logical person.
Absolutely, which is
That's-
why I'm saying that I've already decided to go against the stats by having a business that's doing over $1 million a
Exactly.
year
Then
by
why
26,
would you
which is
even
in the
look at
top
the
4%
stats if they are
of
about
Australian
to prove
stats.
you wrong?
They don't have to prove you wrong when you look at stats.
No.
That's
Well,
a
this
limiting
is
belief.
that is proving you wrong,
That's a
isn't
limiting
it?
belief.
If you walk out of Macca's and you see someone who skin color is a little bit darker, you're going to be more scared of them. That's the
unconscious.
stats, isn't it?
That's unconscious. That is
exactly.
the stats.
But you shouldn't even think about that.
But you can
This-
acknowledge the stats. You don't acknowledge
no,
stats.
you don't have. I don't.
Do you
because
drive a
if
car?
I
Do you
did,
drive a car?
yeah, if I did,
Why
I
do you drive a
wouldn't get
car?
into that car. If I did, I would have never started my
No,
own business
you
because everything's
acknowledged-
against me.
You've acknowledged stats. You're a female that's done very, very well in corporate, correct? I'm very proud of you, by the way. Respect
you.
and well done.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and that took you waking up, blocking out the noise, and going for it anyway.
Exactly.
But
I
you still-
blocked out the
but you
noise.
still
That's
heard
the
the
key
noise.
part. No, I didn't.
You've never heard
In
the
my
noise.
version of reality.
So there's no patriarchy.
I don't think about
There's
it.
no
There
patriarchy.
is. This is
Is there
what
patriarchy or not?
there is.
How do you know
but
there is? That means you had
the
to hear
outside-
something.
no,
That means you had to
yeah.
hear something at one point,
Of
and
course.
you still decided
But
to
when
act
I'm
in
putting on
spite
my
of it.
blinkers and working on my business,
I don't even think of blinkers. I just go. I don't even think I'm black
of course.
today. On a
Then
Zoom
why
call.
would you? Why would you?
But I know that
say-
I'm Nigerian. Like I think I'm black. I don't think I'm white. Maybe a bit here. You know.
I think as someone,
I
especially
think we actually
someone
agree.
who's getting
I think
started,
you just don't like the phraseology of things and the
I
linguistics
think
of
you're
things and
doing
the
it
way I'm
wrong.
using words.
The way that you're phrasing it is wrong.
I think the way I'm phrasing it is honest and acting in spite of it, which is what good entrepreneurs do, much like yourself.
Thank you, Tommy.
You're very welcome.
All right.
You have to be selfish to be successful. Nuance, but the answer is actually yes. Nice to see you.
Let's see. Okay. This one I disagree with.
Okay.
So essentially, what are your terms of selfishness?
Michael Jordan says it the best. To win, multiple people have said this. To win is you have to be selfish to be selfless. So you have to pour into your own bucket to then give to others. So capitalism itself is structured on human primal desire, because humans, whether we believe it or not, and I know everyone thinks they're amazing, but humans naturally want to survive, and survivalship is actually not too far from greed, which is why for those that are religious, especially if they're of Abrahamic religion, so Catholicism, Christianity, the biggest sin in the Bible is pride. And pride and greed are kind of cousins, right? So how does that come to being selfish? And that's why you have to be careful, because even in the Bible it says it's harder for a rich person to get to heaven through the eye of a camel than someone else that isn't rich. You have to be selfish because you have to be narcissistic enough to be like, I deserve over other people to be at the helm of this organization or this thing. But that drive and that selfish nature allows you to recruit and to hire and provide opportunities and salaries to other people that are willing to be a part of your mission. And that then allows them to be selfish and get their selfish needs met, which then allows them to help other people. That's my definition.
Can you start by helping other people?
Can you what?
Can you start by helping other people to help yourself?
Well,
without being
service,
selfish?
Good question. Well, a service business is to provide service to people. And to provide service is to help people by definition. So you actually have to give to get. But knowing that you have to give to get is selfish. I don't think any human is purely selfless. Even, whichever prince in the world or Mother Teresa, they all love to give to get, because also giving feels good. That's why even people that have charities that are only altruistic people, that giving, did you know there's different types of narcissism? One of them is also feeling like you're a good person. That's a type of narcissism.
Yeah. So what if selfishness means backstabbing someone to get where you are?
I don't believe in that.
So that is a part of being selfish, though.
It is.
So that's why
you don't agree.
Yeah, I don't agree because
Fair.
you can backstab someone and you can get further, but if you're selfless, you might fall back. But guess what? Your strength is what keeps you moving forward, because you're moving forward with truth. Being selfish
Selfish isn't truthful? I think that's the most honest.
I think that goes into greed. So it's more negative.
Absolutely. Humans are not all positive or negative. I think in this day and age, we're kind of taught to put people in bad box or good box. I'd rather approach with, I'm a messy human. This is where I'm excelling. This is when I was fat. This is when I got borderline anorexic. This is when I was up. This is when I was down. This is when I got fired from multiple jobs, probably more than most people here. I think it's selfish. It's actually the most selfish to not reveal the messiness of us as humans. I actually am more worried about the person that tries to be too selfless, because I think they're up to something, compared to this person that's honest about what they want out of something and what they're willing to give. I know that I'm dealing with an honest man.
But you can still be selfless and still succeed.
You can be selfless and succeed, but I think the art of being selfless at a primal level is actually selfish.
I still don't believe that.
We don't agree.
Anyone else? Yeah, you can be.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. So just with some final comments, I guess, on this, I agree with your overall position, but I think when you speak about the trickle-down effect of selfishness in terms of employing other people, that's true, and that's definitely something which can be beneficial, but there has to be a lot of nuance with that, because these people that you're employing, or you want them to succeed only insofar as that success for them can translate into success for you. If you could get away with paying them minimum wage, the least amount of money possible for them to still be as efficient, you would do it. That's why businesses offshore to the global south, you have kids in Congo working for like not even $2 a day, kids in Bangladesh, 12 years old, working with suicide safety nets outside their factories, precisely because of this reason. So there is definitely a trickle-down effect which occurs, but if this isn't going to be regulated by like the government, then there's going to be a lot of detrimental consequences.
I don't know what kind of business you do. My business is regulated. You can look it up on PTY LTD. Like, it's all clean. I pay my taxes, right? So if we're talking about, I hear your point on the deregulated and the trickle down, but if you have a regulated business and you're above board and you're doing the right thing, I actually get better results from helping my staff. For example, I've helped my staff, some of them get their first car ever. I've given myself pay cuts all the time, especially as CEO, to help my 70 staff. Part of the issue this call was that I had this morning was I had a staff member that was going through some personal stuff, and they were showing up for a client, and they just got paid yesterday, and the next minute I've been quiet on this client, right? So I think a good CEO that is, say, if we're using proxies, say 70% selfish, 30% selfless, or the inverse, 70% selfless or 30% selfish will actually win. But I think people that are 50-50 or 90-10 on either extreme will completely lose. I think you have to be 30-70 in either direction, because to actually get people to really feel like they are, I know people in my company that they're going to start their own business. That's how they're wired. We do personality tests. Some might be I'm an INFJ. That's my personality type, right? I'm not going to give my IQ out, but like ENFJ and all these other things, there's more personality types that are more likely to do their own thing. If I can help them get the tools to start their own business, I've done my job, one, as a person and as a selfish person. Right. I've selflessly helped them learn all the skills from me to get rich. And I've also given them enough skills that they've helped me get to the next level. Yeah, that's an honest person. And I think you agree with that.
Yeah, and that's great that, like, in your case, this is something which you strive towards. But I think that we should be able to agree that this type of tendency isn't going to be present in CEOs of the biggest corporations in the world. Think of things like Apple, for example, even Nike, with their sweatshops. You mentioned that people who are in these financially successful positions that are CEOs and have these big positions in big businesses, they're more likely to exhibit sociopathic traits, narcissism, psychopathic traits, the dark triad which you mentioned. Yeah. So I think that this is a strong tendency you do see in the corporate world at the very top.
We're going to have to cut it.
Right. Phenomenal work.
Yeah, sure.
All good. All good.
Beautiful.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Okay. So I had this great thought. So you said that you had to be selfish to be successful.
And selfless. It's both. But
yes,
there's nothing wrong with being selfish.
But you don't actually practice that in this scenario.
How?
Because you're giving someone a prize to win. But if you wanted to be selfish, you wouldn't have had a prize, wouldn't you?
No, I'm both. Because I also have been able to get you amazing people to come on a show last minute, which I all appreciate, by the way, because even me, I've got moved things around, and that's awesome. But I also needed selfishly to get new content for my agency, especially for the kind of clients that we're getting, because we're going more internationally, right? So that's my selfish desire. My selfless intent is, yes, like, I know that all of you guys can, and Grace would have made it clear, you guys can use this content for your own accord, just like Wasa. Any content that anyone makes with me, they can use it, whether it's in the own house. Sean, who used to be here, the Asian guy, he was sitting here using content for his UGC business. That's selfless. But he also gets to use all this equipment that he's not paying for. That's also selfless. But selfishly, he also helps it behind the scenes. I didn't have to ask him. He just wanted to do it. So that's why I said, usually, I probably think I'm actually 70% selfless and 30% selfish, right? But I'm definitely can be selfish, and I'm happy to admit that. But that nuance is actually, I'd say, the most unselfish thing someone can do.
But I think you are agreeing with what I'm saying, because the way you present yourself is mostly selfless.
Absolutely.
So you are successful by being selfless, not
And selfish. It's both.
Yeah, but mostly selfless. You just admitted that. 70%.
Absolutely. That my archetype is definitely more biased towards selflessness.
Yes.
But you have to also have a level of selfishness. Otherwise, so ego and selfishness are largely tied together. And by the way, the ego that makes you wake up, take a shower, go to the bathroom, eat food, that's the ego. The ego is healthy. But a lot of people, when they're like, he has a big ego, okay, is that a bad thing? It could be, but it also could not be. You have an ego. You've done very well for yourself, very young. I'm very proud of you. We grew up in the same area together. I'm very proud of how far you've come.
Thank
you also had to, I know some of your past, you had to really battle against some big ego individuals and still keep going. That's your ego that kept you going. That's your selfish survival saying, I'm going to keep going irrespective of how hard life gets. But you're also selfless. You're both, just like myself.
I agree.
And I respect that.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. If you guys like this, then please drop a comment. You can check the comment section and drop your favorite participant today on who you think should win the $250. And on top of that, check the description section. There is the free school group where you can join other members to learn about marketing and sales. There's over 150 videos there. There is the paid school group that has over 200 videos where you see how I handle sales objections live and how I close deals, as well as other marketing material. And if you are a marketing or if you are a business owner that does over 50K a month and above, you can apply for our services. If you're doing over 100K a month, you can apply for consulting. Like, share, subscribe, and see you next time. Thanks.